Crypto Kids, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be discussing about the price of Bitcoin, which is currently sitting at $48,300. Ladies and gents, this chart that you see right now on the screen is incredibly bullish because every single time Bitcoin breaks above the 61.8 Fibonacci line on its monthly cycle history, we tend to hit new all-time highs. And that's exactly what we're going to be discussing in today's video. Alongside that, we have the bearish divergence on the daily time frame, a look into the shorter time frames, and finally the Bitcoin spot ETFs, which have been the reason for this drastic pump. So if that's something that or these topics are something that you find interesting, make sure to watch until the end to not miss out on any key information. Smash up the like button, that would be very much appreciated, and subscribe. Ladies and gents, I'm Crypto Kid, and let's jump straight into the Bitcoin content. Now, going over firstly into the macro analysis. Following that, we'll go into the daily, and we'll jump into the Bitcoin spot ETFs afterwards. So this is the monthly halving cycle kind of broken down with the parabolas drawn to aid it alongside it. But what we can see here critically is the 61.8 Fibonacci lines. These are the yellow lines you can see on the chart. Now, every single time Bitcoin after the halving event crossed above the 61.8, which somehow coincides with the previous local top two almost perfectly, Bitcoin tends to then reach a new all-time high. So let me explain. Bitcoin crossed above the 61.8, which was drawn from the retracement in 2011, right, to 2011 November. We can see there was a Fibonacci retracement. 62 days after the halving event, Bitcoin broke above the 61.8 Fib line and then had two new all-time highs. The same happened in the cycle between 2013 to 16. We had a top at $1,148, and then Bitcoin had the Fibonacci retracement. Approximately 100 days after the halving event, Bitcoin broke the 61.8 and headed towards the $20,000 local top that coincided with the Bitcoin CME futures launch. Same thing happened in the cycle between 2008 and 2020. We traded within this accumulation zone, and then eventually after 200 days from the halving event, Bitcoin broke the 61.8 Fibonacci retracement line and headed to $66,000 to hit a $69,000 all-time high. But ladies and gents, the interesting thing this time around is that Bitcoin is super close to breaking above the 61.8 before the actual halving event. Now, this would be happening for the first time since now we have the momentum with the Bitcoin spot ETFs. The daily buying pressure is super strong, and we'll jump right into that. I have some very key data for you that you'll actually be very surprised about. So if Bitcoin manages to go over the 61.8 before the actual halving, then this could give us an extra boost in momentum to cross the prior high of 69K a lot earlier than what we initially thought could be possible. So we could be seeing a $69,000 Bitcoin instead of Q1 of 2025, perhaps in maybe even summer of this year. Could be likely, and then we hit a new all-time high between $90,000 to $95,000 going into Q1 of 2025. So this is kind of my expectation, or maybe even earlier in November. But remember, nothing in this video is financial advice, just my personal TA and opinions only. Always make sure to come to your own conclusions when trading or investing. Super important. In the macro, things look amazing. In the short term, however, we do need to be mindful that Bitcoin is trading at a crucial level of resistance, and we also have this massive bearish divergence that has been forming ever since October of last year. Now, Bitcoin played out this bearish divergence. We had this one here, and then we had a small drop off in price. So this was already reflected by the first bearish divergence that was between October, the October high and the December high. But that led to another one forming between December and of course January. And we can see another one forming between January and now February. So this could mean that Bitcoin is reaching towards the top. Maybe that's going to be right now. Maybe that's going to be at $49,000. But when we do, it is likely that we may see a correction. Now, if we look at the total average correction that Bitcoin has experienced from these bearish divergences, the first one has been an 8.8% drop. Then the second one has been a bit of a larger one, actually. That was a 20.9% drop. So an average, let's say it's like, 10, 11%. If Bitcoin were to see an 11% drop from 48.8K, that would take us down to the level of $43,200 where Bitcoin has good support. So I think that would be a highly likely scenario if we were to see that play out. And that's what I'm personally looking out for. That could be a good point in starting to DCA into Bitcoin if you haven't already, because that's, I've been DCAing for the past couple of months. If you've not started, it may be a good idea, and I would definitely look into that. But going in towards the short-term analysis for Bitcoin, of course, we had a trade open, which is still open, by the way, that we entered following the breakout of this bullish pennant and inverse head and shoulders structure. I just wish we added more into it. If you did, then a huge congratulations, because with, I think, 2x leverage, it's already in 23% profits. And guys, if you are looking for a place to be trading Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, you can always make sure to go down to the description below and actually get up to $68,888 worth in rewards by signing up to Bitflex using this link. So that concludes our Bitcoin TA update. Let's jump into the on-chain analysis very briefly, and then we'll go into the breaking news that has been causing the price of Bitcoin to fundamentally go towards the upside. So in terms of the on-chain metrics, we can see that Bitcoin is in the mid-risk or high-risk situation. You can see here on the bottom that Bitcoin is in the orange zone. Now, whenever Bitcoin flips from a yellow to orange zone, so from low risk to high risk, we can expect a very high risk territory, which is supported by the red color, and that's usually the blow off top for Bitcoin. But following this structure, if we play it out like it's supposed to do and how it's done so ever since 2016, we could be having a higher push towards the upside, and this could be a good signal that the price of Bitcoin could still have more room to go and maybe come towards the $90,000 to $95,000 level where we have the top for this Bitcoin cycle. In terms of economical news events coming up this week, we do have the CPI. This will be super important, and the reason why it will be super important is the stock market has been pumping due to reasons of the interest rates potentially easing off or the economy is cooling off. That's why the stock market has been pumping, and Bitcoin is being correlated to this due to the fact that the ETFs have been so successful, and we're seeing approximately, or we saw on Friday, $545 million worth of inflows coming in. Now, this buying pressure is super significant, and I believe it is causing a correlation between Bitcoin and the stock markets pretty drastically, and it's bullish news. It's great news, and that's why if the inflation metric is given as a low number, then the interest rates could be coming down, maybe not in March, but in the next FOMC, and that could cause the price of Bitcoin to continue a lot higher. But let's read through this thread very quickly, which I prepared last night. It's super bullish. So what we saw was the total inflows hit $545 million, the second highest since the launch of the Bitcoin spot ETFs, and we had the lowest amount of outflows from GBTC with only 51.8 million. This is incredible because the current daily accumulation average for the ETFs sit at $126 million. That's between Monday to Friday. And remember, after the halving, the newly mined Bitcoin supply will drop from 900 Bitcoin to 450 Bitcoin. And if we see this average continue, 126 million, that's going to keep on buying up Bitcoin and pushing the price a lot higher than what we would expect to be. So it's incredible buying pressure, and I believe we could surpass the previous all-time high at $69,000 a lot sooner than what we can imagine. And what's also super good news is that the Hong Kong ETFs are kind of finalizing, and they're expecting a launch in the first quarter. A lot of volume into the Bitcoin markets come from Asia rather than the western part of the world. So Hong Kong launching ETFs could bring in a lot more big money into the space. And what extra Bitcoin accumulation we see on a day-to-day basis is of course good for us. So this is massive, massive news. We can see that MicroStrategy's total unrealized profits on their 190,000 Bitcoin investment has reached $3 billion in profits. Guys and girls, I think Michael Saylor is probably the biggest genius of our time, and I will stick by that because really he's doing something incredible, and it's paid off very well. A lot of people doubted him when the markets were in the red, but now, of course, he is doing very well for himself, so massive congrats. But the total market cap of Bitcoin did reach briefly $1 trillion, the first time since, I believe, December of 2022. So it's been a while, but Bitcoin has reached a $1 trillion market capitalization very briefly. And yeah, let's just celebrate that. Let's take some time to celebrate that. And another thing to celebrate for Bitcoin is the new all-time high in hash rate. This means that the total computing power being contributed to the Bitcoin network is at an all-time high, meaning more people around the world, more miners around the world are contributing to the decentralization of Bitcoin, and that is great news. The CEO of BlackRock, alongside the many other bullish things that he stated this year, he's mentioned that Bitcoin is no different than what gold was for thousands of years, and it's an asset that protects you. And if Bitcoin is classified by the markets as a hedge against inflation and perhaps a better asset to invest in rather than gold, then the total assets, the total market capitalization of Bitcoin will surpass gold in a very short amount of time. Yes, this may be 15 years, but 20 years. In the grand scheme of things, it's very short. And once that happens, the price of Bitcoin will surely, of course, based off of my opinion, nothing in this video is financial advice, will be a lot higher than where we're sitting at right now, even around the $1 million areas. As the economy of the United States or the value of the US dollar continues to deplete, then this target could be reached a lot quicker. Some breaking news, unfortunately, there will be no crypto ads in the Super Bowl based off of the scandal that happened last time, so that's completely understandable. It's okay, not a big deal. And this is really incredible. I mean, 18 days ago, or I think 19 days ago now, Jim Cramer said that Bitcoin is unlikely to find its footing, and Bitcoin is up 20% since then. If you hold the inverse Cramer ETF, you're probably a billionaire at this moment in time, so massive congrats. But some of the final news, if you're wondering why the S&P 500 is actually pumping, you can see that the global debt rose to a new record high in 2023, sitting at $224 trillion. Of course, for banks and institutions to give out 0% interest loans to other banks and corporations to buy the stock market, by doing this, they issue new debt. And if they're not able to pay off this debt, then that piles up. And now you're looking at the US sitting at $34.2 trillion in national debt. And eventually, a lot of systems around the world, they're going to deplete on itself. We're already seeing hyperinflationary situations in countries like Ethiopia, Myanmar, Turkey. And once this spreads to higher countries with a higher GDP, then you'll be seeing more global concern. And that's either going to force a shift into gold, silver, or assets such as Bitcoin, which are much more easier to use. And finally, the total engagement in the crypto space overall has fallen. So yes, the price is trading at 48.5K, but the total interest in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is nowhere near where we were in the previous bull market. And this is giving us an indication that this bull run is led by institutions and the retail FOMO has not kicked in. And once the retail FOMO does kick in, that's when the price of Bitcoin will have that extra tick towards the upside, and that could get us to my target of $90,000 to $95,000. But some news outside of the crypto space, yet in the tech space overall, is that Sam Altman is seeking $7 trillion for OpenAI. $7 trillion. Yeah, let that sink in. Let's see how this plays out. But ladies and gents, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, make sure to smash up the like button. Bitcoin is going to do very well, in my opinion, in the macro. In the short term, we may experience a small drawdown from the bearish divergence, but nothing to fear, nothing to worry. Guys and girls, I'll see you all in the next video very soon. Take care, everyone. Have a beautiful day, and bye-bye.